Hi, Amazona. Hello, people online. We are Stavroz. We're going to talk about how we make our music. And we're choosing one song as an example to kind of give you a little bit of an insight into how we do things. Stavros is four people. You're only seeing three right now. Our fourth member has is not feeling too well, I'm afraid. So we're doing this with Peter Esbrandt and myself. My name is Gert. We're choosing the first song of our new album. Our new album is called Take a Seat, and the first song, is called like the album. So take a seat. So please take a seat and enjoy what we have kind of prepared for us, for you. I mean, I'm seeing we're running into some technical thingamajig here. And there is our Ableton again. As you can see, we work with Ableton. First, we'll tell you a little bit about the origin of the song. Usually, we work within Stavros. We work kind of like in our own home studios. We start a song there and then we send it to our band members. Occasionally, we make something all four of us together as well. Sometimes it's two per two and we make things. But at the end, all the ideas kind of come together in our main studio, which is where you are now here as well. And we do the finishing touches, or we try to figure out what it is that we're missing, or what is too much, or just kind of play around with it until everyone is satisfied. And now this song in specific started out in your home studio. Am
Yes,
I right?
you're completely right. I'm working in Logic Pro. I work a lot with real instruments like the saxophone, guitars, percussion stuff. The track "Take a Seat" it started actually with a Rhodes, an easy hypnotic sample. Um, Also, the time signature of the song is in 6, so it has also this hypnotic feel already. Don't try to only do 4 to the floor tracks. We love that also, but sometimes it's nice to explore some different and stranger time signatures. Um, Then after the road sample, maybe you can let you 4, 5, 1, 4, 5, 1, 2. So then I yeah took my saxophone and I used this. I can show you maybe. It's an intra mic. It's called. And because of this, you don't have any bleed. It becomes like a line signal, so I can plug it in all my guitar and effect pedals. So that opens a whole new world. Um, then I send it to the guys, and I think then maybe you can go on with the story now.
Yeah. So eventually, the projects end up here on this main computer where we keep working on it, and these songs we then bring, or these elements we bring from, in this case, from Logic into Ableton. We did not take the exact time signature as Peter had intended it, so we kept it, as you can tell here at the top, on 4/4. Um, if you count long enough, it eventually turns into a 4/4 as well. So that's why the tempo seems so slow, but the song still feels quickly. That allows us to kind of play around with different timings of delays and stuff like that. this is not necessarily a trick or anything. This is just how it kind of evolved as the project hops from band member to band member, and then how it eventually ends up here. So we end up in Ableton, and we do pretty much all of our work afterwards then in Ableton. And we try to use as many stock plugins from Ableton as possible, as long as it serves our purposes and our needs. So you will notice that in our session, for example, we try to keep it clean. As you see here is the drums. It's an entire group that keeps all of the drums inside of it. The bass is, in this case, only one bass guitar. Then we have pads, which are like long-winded synths and perhaps some horns or some, basically just long notes that kind of form a bit of, on which we place everything else, and where we give priority to other elements. So the pad is usually something that exists in the background, but it is very important for creating an atmosphere. You'll see quite a few elements here hidden in the pad group. That is because we start this song with a very, very long kind of harmonic riser. So because this is the first song on the album, we wanted it to really grow from nothing and become richer and richer and richer and richer, to then eventually drop into drums and bass guitar. And that is exactly the reason why we have such an amount of pads. It's because we wanted to make it as rich as possible. You'll find, for example, a mellotron massive from Native Instruments, the recording of a Uno, which Maxime has, some more Uno, the analog from Ableton itself, which is excellent. Obviously, I mean, all there's some Arturia plugins here as well, like the Buchla. So we use many different things from many different manufacturers. All of them are good. Nowadays, there's nothing really that sucks. The quality is so high. And basically what it then sounds like, the whole pad group would be like this. Intention that we try to do here. So the pad rises until we enter the song with the drums, the saxophone, the bass guitar. Did you do anything specific with the bass guitar, or do you have a special choice before you do the recording, or as you do the recording?
No, it's played on a Fender Mustang short scale bass. Actually sounded really nice, like pretty clean. I think maybe I just added a little soft distortion on it, but yeah, not.
Sounds really good. And as you can tell here, if you're a little bit familiar with Ableton, you'll understand that when you activate the channel, you see all the instruments, or I'm saying the audio effects that are inserted on this channel. And as you can tell, there's a decapitator, there's an equalizer, there's a compressor, there's a guitar rig. So we try all kinds of things to then eventually just turn everything off, because they're all deactivated, as you can tell, except for an equalizer. So that means we try to get it as right as possible from the start. So afterwards we don't have to like try things to fix any potential problems or whatever. So this is a prime example of just having a good recording, good shit, and just having like a tiny frequency that we gotta kind of get rid of here, and we use the Ableton stock equalizer because it works for us, and eventually the end result is how we want it to be. So we're pleased about that. So very short explanation about the bass guitar. The pads we just kind of went over earlier. As you can tell here, laser bass, which is a instrument from Native Instruments that you can access through Reactor. It's really cool, weird sounding bass. The Mellotron is the classic, actually the oldest sampler that has been made, that works on tapes. So they built this kind of keyboard back in the 60s, I don't know, and they put tapes inside of it with, for example, a flute. And as you press a note, the tape starts playing, and you would hear the flute or whatever kind of instrument that they had sampled back then on tape. Samplers nowadays are obviously not as convoluted as this, as the Mellotron, but it sounds absolutely brilliant. We have Massive, which is a synth from Native Instruments with a lot of teeth and grit. The Uno also from Arturia, the Contact from Native Instruments, etc., as we said before. And then we would also treat every instrument separately a little bit with some equalizing and compression, but then again, also here, not much is going on other than some compression, drive, and some sidechain. Perhaps we would also do. So sidechaining compression basically means that the compressor is not triggered by the information on the channel itself, where the compressor is inserted on. The compressor is activated by something externally, something that exists on a different track within the same project. So in this case, we would trigger the compressor with the kick drum of that same song. So this is a very standard dance music trick to get really pumping bass lines or pumping hi-hats so that they drop in volume every time that the kick hits. So the kick gets a lot of space in the mix. It sounds more powerful and it really drives the song forward. So basically the sidechain is a by now basic trick for electronic music. Or for example, they would also use it on radio when the presenter is talking and in the background there's some music playing, and as soon as the presenter starts to speak, the sound ducks, the music in the background ducks, and the voice of the presenter is more clear to be heard. Other than that, we have a group with Varia. You can see we have Mouth, which is not really a mouth, but it is a plugin also by Native Instruments that we like to use a lot. It is a combination of a synth and a vocoder and then some effects, and it really morphs whatever you feed into the mouth into something pretty unusual and pretty funky. Now we have, what else? Some risers, classic things also for electronic music and dance music. Once again, mouth. Some weird effects for the saxophone.
So reverse.
It is reverse. It is the saxophone reversed in this case, indeed, and cut up a little bit as an answer to the original saxophone. Because here is the solo saxophone. So question, answer, question, answer, question, answer. And as a result, it just tells a little story. Voila, and then the solo saxophone leads into a lovely choir of more saxophones. I believe you have a tenor, baritone saxophone in there, and soprano.
Yeah, maybe we can put them in solo. I think it's all alto. Yeah, they're all altos.
All alto saxophones, after all. Nevertheless, in other songs, we sometimes will we'll add trumpet to it, or maybe some tuba, or some tenor sax, or some baritone sax, depending on how rich we want the orchestration to be. But once again, the same thing applies as I said earlier. We barely have done anything when it comes to audio treatment, just some compression, and even this equalizer that you're seeing here, it's not really doing anything other than kind of filtering the frequencies. So it goes from a little bit more in the box, and then it opens up as the song continues. Well, and that kind of brings us to the end of the recordings in this project. I see there's another group here, but it's gonna be the same principle, more saxophones, basically cut and pasted and duplicated, so for it to create kind of like a long harmony. Then we can have a little dive into the effects that we would use on the return buses. So for example, we would send the saxophone, the signal of the saxophone, into a reverb unit and into a delay unit. And they're also pretty standard, except for the reactor that you can see here. We use the Space Master, the Space Master 2 from Native Instruments. You can find it within Reactor of Native Instruments. And it's like a kind of bit metallic, but reverb, but you can make it stretch really long, and it's very good for effect purposes, not to make necessarily your saxophone or your elements really sit nicely into a mix. That's not really what it's for. It's really to kind of like make it sound like a reverb that wouldn't almost exist in real life. or that definitely does not exist in real life. If we want to really make the saxophone or any element sit in the mix, then we will try the classic, like shorter reverbs from either Valhalla or also from native instruments like the RC48, for example, or the RC24. They work really well for us. Voila. So we would use those kinds of things to add space and depth to the entirety of the song. Voila, for example, here on the drum group, you can see it is not activated, I'm afraid, because we don't have it on this system. But the RC48 is then one of Native Instruments' reverb units that we think sounds nice and does what it's supposed to do on our drums in general. We can take a little dive into the drums now as well while we're here. We are very big fans of trying to shape it as natural sounding as possible. We have used recordings of live drums on this album, but our intention most of the time is to try and make our drums sound organic and acoustic to a certain degree, but have the power of electronic music. And I think that's a little bit where the staple lies of what it is to make a sound, or make a song sound a bit like Stavroz as well, other than the harmonies that we use, other than the key modes that we use. So here you can tell that we have a shaker group, some rides. The ride is one of the cymbals. The kick drum, important. It's layered with, it's not, with another kick drum, with a low tom. These are recordings that we did in a studio here in Belgium. So you can see also that we use some toms there and some input as well to add to this song. There is some darbuka, which is a Middle Eastern instrument. And then basically some samples that we cut up and we use the best parts of that sample. For example, you see here, this is a very, very, very long loop. And eventually we will only use like this tiny little part of it, just because that's the part we feel like we need. Same goes here with a tom, another tom, some more some more samples, like we call them knocks, or a clop is our own jargon for this. Basically, we're often looking for something that is not really a clap or a snare, but sounds more like like someone knocks on the door. Doesn't really sound like anyone's knocking on the door now, but it got this name and we stuck with it. When you hear it by itself, it sounds weird, but when you hear it in its totality, it makes sense. Well, this is kind of like a messy drum groove that is kind of stumbling a little bit throughout the song, but it makes sense. And we just try to make something that is not too common, not too straightforward, and I believe that we succeeded in that with this song, especially because, first of all, it's 6/4, so it's like Peter mentioned before, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that is already unusual for dance music, very unusual. And then on top of that, the kind of stumbling beat makes it stand out, I believe, still more. So you can't even really consider this dance music anymore. But it grooves really nicely. And the last element here is a little drum group also that is added, on which barely anything happens. And let me play that for you as well. So you see a lot of information, but only one little part of this is playing. So if we dive into this, you see, voila. This here is the little transient that is playing in this entire group. So if we go through the drum group, the different elements will sound like this. Oh, the ride is not working with us today. And as you can tell, here in the bottom, all the effects are, as earlier, very basic, very minimalistic, nothing, like no 10 plugins in a row that kill this frequency there and then solve a problem that was caused because of a plugin before that. It's all very like clean, I'd say. So there we go. Once again, the elements by themselves are pretty meh, but bring everything together and pretty cool. Then, as a last little note about the drums, we combine all of them in one group, and one thing that we do at that moment is treat the group. So that was all the drums separately. At the end, we then put all of the separate tracks of the drum into a group, as we've explained before, as we do with other elements as well. And then we do treat the group. And one of our favorite little units to use is the drum bus. From Ableton itself, it has this lovely boom feature where you can define in what key the song is. In this case, you can tell here, we've tuned it with the frequency dial to D. So if we change this, you'll see that this changes as well. So now we're in G. And what it does is it creates extra low end, usually it creates extra low end where there is already low end, but it will create that low end, in this case, around the D. So if your song is in D, choose D there, push the boom a little bit, and it will create like a warmer and bigger low end and more punchy. And then there are some basic elements as well, like drive, crunch, and compression here at the bottom, and a dry wet. And it's really a really fun tool to pimp your drums in a good way, like go overboard with it and then dial it down. That's kind of the way that we go, and we can show you kind of a before and after. So I will bypass what happens with what the drum buzz is actually bringing to the table. So you notice that the little elements that are more in the background, they come more to the foreground. The full picture becomes more punchy, and yeah, it works like a charm. And then basically the last thing for us in the drum group that remains is to kind of clear out a little bit of the dirty frequencies, and they usually live in the low mid. And for that we have this EQ here, and you can see that it's taking out some frequencies on around 100 hertz and 240 hertz here. So that's kind of our go-to frequency when we want to take the mud out of a mix. And that's maybe the best piece of advice in this little video. Warmth exists in that region, but often it starts sounding like cardboard. It's maybe a strange term to use for to compare it to audio, but when you hear it, you'll understand. Or I'll accentuate that area and you'll understand what it is that I mean. So it's often useless information that just clutters everything. And there's only one way to work with it, and that's to get rid of it, preferably. A fun trick to figure out where exactly the mud is to push your frequencies and then see what happens when you go all over the frequency spectrum. And then when you notice, like, okay, here is actually something that sounds nasty, you just get rid of it. A equalizer is generally used to not to accentuate things, but to diminish the problems. You can use it to make something brighter and to make maybe something stand out, but generally the way to go with an equalizer is to kind of identify where the problem lies in a frequency and then get rid of that frequency, or to make space for other elements in your mix. And other than that, barely anything is being done to the drum group. So voila, those are all the separate groups and all the separate elements that we used in this song. We put them in groups also to make it easy to make a quick mix. For example, at the final stages, you balance all the instruments separately, and it's easy to just, and this is one of the great advantages of Ableton, you put them all in that group, and then you just turn the group up or down. And this way you can very easily balance instruments amongst themselves. So that's why we put also the pads together, so we can then just take down take down the volume of all the pads separately, of all the saxes in one go. We put them up.
The group is also really nice because when we play live, we definitely need like the stems. For example, like we want to have parts of the drums, then we just like put this group in solo. We render the whole stuff so we can bring it to the live show. Obviously, we don't need the saxophones because that's something we would prefer to play live.
Exactly. Yeah. So it serves many purposes. And it's a system that has come to life as we've been producing, as we've been performing live, and it has been optimized throughout the many years we've already been working together and finding out what works best for us. And voila, that's it. What remains is the main track, or at least the output, so the left-right, so where everything comes together, the whole balance of the song, the whole mix, then gets treated in minor detail. You see that we put a limiter here, which basically we wouldn't really use before we send it to mastering. We do a tiny bit of equalizing on it. Again, you see it's maybe a bit around the muddy area. Yep, 230 hertz. So that's once again a little part that we take out just to make it shine a little bit more, or because there's something there that we didn't like. But this is such a tiny difference. And then you can see the tape J37, which is of Arturia, which is an awesome little tape emulation to add a little bit of compression and dynamics to the song, the right types of dynamics and a little bit of overdrive. Sounds really good when you just push it very lightly into the red, but very lightly. And then there is also an Ozone 11, which we would use to make like a preliminary master before we send it to other people to listen to it, so it at least has some like brightness and some punch, and it stands up to other songs that they might be listening to on that same day or in that same time period. And it can also serve as a suggestion to the mastering engineer. So we would already make something and we would tell the mastering engineer, look, this is kind of what we like already. Let this be an inspiration. And then it's up to the mastering engineer to take it out of our hands and create something amazing with it. And voila. I hope you enjoyed perhaps learning about our way of working, and please go and check our new album on whatever streaming service you use: Tidal, Spotify, Apple Music, Deezer, Bandcamp. Check out our website, stavroz.com, for any tour dates, because we'll be touring in Europe in the beginning of 2025, and a lot of more tour dates are coming up, so probably will be around wherever you live. Voila. Thank you for checking in, and we hope to see you at one of our performances.
Me too.
Take care. Bye. Let this be an inspiration. And then it's up to the mastering engineer to take it out of our hands and create something amazing with it. And voila. I hope you enjoyed perhaps learning about our way of working, and please go and check our new album on whatever streaming service you use, Tidal, Spotify, Apple Music, Deezer, Bandcamp. Check out our website, stavroz.com, for any tour dates, because we'll be touring in Europe in the beginning of 2025. And a lot of more tour dates are coming up, so probably we'll be around wherever you live. Voila. Thank you for checking in, and we hope to see you at one of our performances.
Thank you.
Take care.